What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here. Today we are having a Thavas Lambros Premium deck profile. There are some really cool interactions that we can use with Thavas and Lambros into Premium that honestly we can take advantage, especially with the Premium Collection 2020 that we got. We got Genbold. So all these cards synergize as well. So let's start right to get into the deck concept, what it's trying to accomplish, and then after that, card ratios, and then right after that, some combo plays. Let's get right into it. So some key things that we want to accomplish with this deck is honestly take advantage of the pseudo stride that we have in standard now, thanks to Thavas going into Lambros. What's really cool, there's actually an interaction that we can actually have that first grade 3 turn ride, go into Lambros, do our thing, and at the end of the turn, Lambros will retire from the Vanguard circle, and we can actually play it so that we could actually rewrite a grade 2 from Soul. Thus, when it goes to the opponent's turn, they have to not rewrite, they have to ride up to grade 3, but because we're a grade 2, they cannot stride. And so what you do is kind of like something that we did with Anno K back in the format a year or two ago, that honestly will guarantee you the first stride. And not only that, you do an effective first grade 3 turn as well. So that's something that I wanted to point out, and I'll describe a little bit how that looks like in the combo part of the video. And with Genbold, because of Premium Collection, we got a really good stride. And at first, it seemed kind of underwhelming, but after actually playtesting it, and what I realized about Genbold from Premium Collection is that he has draw power, field generation, and the retire power. It's just like all those three combined honestly makes up a lot for what Aqua Force kind of like lacked a little bit. And not only that, Thavas' skill of retiring is also on Regard Circle, so you're able to control your opponent's board, kind of giving you that old Thavas feel of control. But not only that, but accomplishing 4 battles or even more at that point of that turn. And so we have cards like Coral Assault and Narissa that honestly help with numbers for the Thavas Lambros turn, and also on your stride turns such as like Genbold and Alexandros and Valeos and so on. And these cards are very key because even if they call arrested like a Narissa that doesn't get restood by something, then it just goes into soul and draws you a card. So you further get more hand advantage, and it it kind of calls you draw Aqua Force, draw a lot of cards in Aqua Force. And Orpheus here really just to help push that pressure, especially if you can beef up on Narissa with her own scope, because there are cards like Thavas and some in the other ratios that rest us, and you can stand it, so that way your stride turns have big beefy columns with Narissa, either on her own or as a booster. And Orphea can restand it, and also we have Coral Assault, which is our 24k beater as well, which we can stack triggers on, and Orphea can re-abuse as well. So that's really what the deck's trying to accomplish. Just start getting into the card ratios. Onto the main deck, we are playing 4 grade 3s in Thavas. We are playing 3 grade 4s in the form of Lambros. So this is the main deck. So we are playing actual grade 4s in the main deck. So it's kind of new to Aqua Force. Everything has been in the stride zone. But we're able to play this. But do keep in mind that we are technically playing 4 grade 3s. So this is kind of like a 4 grade 3 deck, because ultimately you want to ride Thavas as soon as you ride to grade 3. And then you could ride Lambros as well. But once you get stuck, he doesn't really do as much, and so you want to make sure that Thavas is your key ride. So what does Thavas even do? Thavas has an axe skill, Vanguard Regard Circle, once per turn, cost, rest a Regard, and choose up to one of your opponent's Regards and retire it. So we are given a way to retire without a Counterblast, without a Soul Blast, without a battle condition, something ridiculous, that honestly we could just rest a Regard and actually retire. And what's cool in Premium, and even in Standard, we can actually just rest and rest Soul Blast 1, restand, it gets plus 10k, and we retire something. So we're beefing up our field, but also retiring at that point. But outside of that, it goes into the second skill. Auto Vanguard Circle at the beginning of your battle phase. If 3 or more of your Regards are at rest, discard 1 as a cost, and search your deck for up to 1 grade 4 and write it as stand. That's also very key. And then shuffle your deck, and then that unit gets 10k and a drive until the end of the turn. And then at the end of the turn, retire that unit and write a grade 3 from your soul as rest. And so very key things, you get 2 Excel circles by the end of your turn. You get Lambros to be able to rewrite, and that's why the resting helps with that condition. Why I say it's key that we ride a stand is because it actually can come up with a Mega Colony matchup. I actually had that matchup over the weekend with my friend Ross Duke. He's the one that does the deck profiles on my channel, and honestly, it's a good comeback if you get Gordoroed, like the grade 4, and you don't have a grade 3 to rewrite, and a lot of our strides honestly need to attack to even do anything. So for real, it's a lifesaver. So just having access to that restands our Vanguard. But what's awesome is that Lambros has these 3 skills. The first one is just a hand skill where he can be regarded as a grade 3 if you have Thavas in the name. This allows you still to pay the cost of stride with one card, of course. You can even call it as a rear guard if you need to, or you could just rewrite it and have a 15k base Vanguard. Honestly, it may come up. I haven't ran into it yet, but most of the time I rely on being a Thavas. The second skill is that when it's actually placed on Vanguard Circle, you can choose as many as your rear guards and stand them. Again, very key for the Mega Colony matchup. So if they stun your whole field, not only your Vanguard will restand thanks to Thavas forcing that Lambros to pseudo stride, Lambros is going to restand all the rear guards that you want. So literally you can start your turn, draw for turn, and then just go immediately into your battle phase and actually just get a full field restand, and boom, you're in the Lambros turn at that point. The third skill is awesome too as well, because when it attacks, you can counter blast one, soul blast one, choose a column, stand all those rear guards, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, then they get 5k each of them as well. Now, at paper, it seemed underwhelming, but we had the discussion a prior video somewhere here, and also Wavenation had mentioned it was a puzzle that we solved, and honestly, it's better than we thought because of the cards that support around Lambros. In a vacuum, it kind of sucks, but with all the other card support, it really makes up for it. And again, it makes up for that solid grade 3 turn too. Not only that, but it's a good comeback against Mega Colony, especially with the Gridora Stride. On to the grade 2s. We are playing 12 grade 2s. We are playing 4 Dennis, 4 Agias, and 4 Coruscant. So Dennis and Agias are new to the deck and as well from the set. What Dennis does is that he has an act Vanguard Circle, Rear Guard Circle once per turn, like a hard once per turn. You can rest another Rear Guard as the cost and actually look at the top card and call it to Rear Guard Circle. So this is basically you rest something and call something for free from the top of your deck. You do not get to choose what it is. So if you saw that you got a heal trigger, you have to call it. It's happened to me. It's okay, but we are generating a field that way. And again, you can pair up with Narissa to actually take advantage of that power up. And it also helps with requiring, making that condition for Thavas to look for 3 or more rested rear guards to go into Lambros. So that's very key too. And what's also cool is that there's a grade 1 Nikki, the retrain, that actually not only searches for Thavas, but it also searches for Dennis. So it helps with that consistency of actually +1 if you can when you ride Nikki. And so that really helps in that. And then in premium, in the form of stride turns, you can actually just force that Narissa column to get stronger, and not only that, you're generating a field that can potentially make up for your field, so that way you can conserve hand at that point. So Dennis still plays a role. You could probably try to reduce him to 3 and stick something else, but I've been playing the 4, and so far it's been working really well. Not only that, we have Agias over here. Agias' skill is act rear guard circle only, once per turn, cost, counterblast 1, rest 2 rear guards, and then this unit gets 10k until the end of the turn. Now, in a vacuum, this card is not that great, but again, with the following support that goes around it, it makes this card enable you to do those turns where you abuse Narissa, where you meet those 3 rear guard requirement for Thavas, but not only that, it makes it a 19k attacker, which honestly, if you do the Thavas Lambros turn by itself, you realize that you need some numbers to actually make that turn more pressure-wise, because Lambros' power-up isn't that great. So, I mean, if you were to compare it to Nyros gives plus 5k to everything that it sees on the board, and Lambros only gives plus 5 to the things that it stood. So, you know, give or take, Agias is key. You don't always have to use Agias, but it is there. So typically you're using 1 to 2 counterblast per turn. And Agias is there just to help you with the consistency of meeting those rested stuff and also abusing the Narissa as well. And now we have Coral Assault. Coral Assault is our really main sorcerer beater. Like I said, he's a 24k beater if there's 4 or more other units that are rest. And then the second skill at the end of the turn, if you have total number of attacks or 4 or more, then put it into soul, draw a card. Also keep in mind that the put into soul and draw a card is not optional, it's just mandatory. So watch out for your attacks, because believe it or not, I've actually decked out with this deck in premium. It's really hard to believe. I felt like I was playing Grand Blue. But, you know, you had to realize how much you're going to draw, especially with Genbold, with cards like Narissa and Coruscant, so keep that in mind. But honestly, Coruscant is still a great card. We can use it against an Orphea where we can restand him. He's very solid for that Lambros turn to make that very big column to actually be worth to restanding as well. Not only that, it's just something that we could just plop down, especially if we have a bunch of Excel circles later in the game, and then he can go into Soul and actually give us back advantage at that point. So it's just really good. Grade 2 lineup so far. Do I miss Tidal Assault? Do I miss August? Do I miss the new terrific Core Dragon? I don't miss it, for the rare reason what the deck itself as a Thavas Lambros stack that is trying to accomplish. And at the end of the day, my grade 1, grade 2 turn isn't the really key things. What I like to do in grade 2 turn is, alright, Dennis, for example, I actually put something in the back row where I can rest it and call something and start generating that +1 since grade 2 at that point. So that way going into grade 3, you can get another +1, that helps you generate that field if you want to go into that Lambros turn with the Thavas interaction, or you go into stride at that point too. So it's a different way of looking at it. Onto the grade ones. We were playing 14 grade ones. We were playing 4 Narissa, 4 Nikki, 3 Baragios, 2 Orphea, and 1 Penguin Soldier. So let's start with the basics. For Narissa, she has 2 skills. When she is rested by another card's ability, you can Soul Blast once, stand this unit, get plus 10k to the end of the turn. That is a not once per turn, so you can keep abusing it, and so it's very common to abuse her skill 1 to 3 times a turn pretty consistently. There has been moments where you can do it 4 times, but you gotta have a lot of soul. But what's cool is because Narissa and Koro Soul go into soul, and Nikki helps soul charge as well, you're able to easily do that later in the game as well. So it's really things to keep in mind, so that way your stride turns are very strong, and also your Thavas Lambros turn is also very strong. The second skill is at the end of the turn, if you have 4 more rested units, rear guards I should say, put this unit into your soul and draw a card. Again, as long as you have those, it's a mandatory effect, so watch out so you don't deck yourself out at that point. But it's a very key card, and honestly, Narissa's MVP. I'm gonna be upfront about that. Like, if you gotta play 4, and honestly, it's the only way that lets you be aggressive, commit a field, and get back advantage. It's very similar to the Revon style, where Revon at first too was kind of underwhelming, but with Koro, Soul, Narissa, and cards like that, that just, you know, pop on the field, they go into Soul and drive you back advantage, and then just kind of rinse and repeat at that point. Almost like a Night Rose turn kind of thing, where you rebuild your field and kind of do your 4 or 5 attacks, or even more, especially if you have already generated a lot of Excel circles. Keep in mind that you can easily get 3 Excel circles by your second stride turn too, or your second, or your first stride, I don't know. If you went into Thavas Lambros, you get 2 circles, and then if you stride, you can reride first to get the 3rd circle, then go stride. So you can have those 3 Excel circles your first stride technically at that point. Whatever comes first. So for Nikki, what he does, like I said, Vanguard Circle, place check the top 7 for a Thavas or for a Dennis, and you can add that to your hand and shuffle your deck. So that's where you could get that +1. What I recommend, especially as you're noticing that I'm playing 3 Baragios and only Thavas is at 4 and there's no other grade 3, I would suggest grabbing the Thavas if you do not have it in your starting hand. Your mulligan is very key too, so that way you are not grade stuck, and it sucks because you need to be on Thavas, and if you are grade stuck, the deck really struggles, and it's really meant for those actual power turns. So it really doesn't do anything because we're not playing title, we're not playing August. That really just makes our early game more workable if we don't have the right grade 3, but it's more imperative now just to make sure that you have the Thavas. So if you don't have it, make sure you grab it. Otherwise, you can get Dennis if you already have it, so that way you're not grade stuck. And you do not want to GS's an Aqua Force. I'll be upfront with that. It hurts like hell. So now we're going into, his second skill. I almost forgot. So it's an act, regard circle, rest this unit, and put a normal unit from the drop zone to the bottom of the deck and soul charge 1. This is really cool because we get to recycle not only Lambros, but other cards that we want to. So Narissa will go into Soul, and we'll Soul Blast it with cards like herself, Orphea, Lambros, and other cards. Even even Gaphilia or G-Guard Soul Blast, so we can Soul Blast Narissa out, recycle it with Nikki if we really need to. So it really brings that recyclability to Aqua Force, which is really cool. Then again, also keep in mind the Soul Charge is mandatory, so you're not adding cards to your deck, you're kind of breaking even at that point. You're just kind of cycling through cards at that point. So I play 4 for if you want to ride it, you can get that consistency to help you, making sure you have Thavas or even Dennis if you're missing that. And then of course the second skill, because it rests itself, it's another card that you can use to meet those conditions for Thavas, or you just need it for recyclability, or both. Now, 3 Baragios. Baragios is a great card. If you have 4 more rested regards, it gets +5. It's our 13k booster attacker. The second skill, when placed Vanguard Rigor Circle, you can check the top 5 for grade 3 and add it, right? He can only grab Thavas. He cannot grab a Lambros, which is a bummer. I'm not gonna lie. I wish it was grade 3 or greater. But I realized that with Lambros being a card that he is, you do not want to draw into Lambros or even call it on a regard circle with Dennis. You rather have him in deck for the reason for Thavas to fetch him and ride it from deck at that point. So it doesn't even matter. What really matters is just to help with the consistency of getting Thavas, being a 13k booster, and just being a unit that actually works with the synergy of resting regards to. With Coral Assault and this card, seeing a certain requirement of rested units, those units can attack earlier than expected and hit their power buffs. So it's really key on the Genbold turns, and it can be vital for the Thavas Lambros turns too later on. Now, Orphea and Penguin Soldier. Now, why 2 Orphea and 1 Penguin Soldier? Because, like I said, you draw a lot. I decided to throw these guys in. This guy and this girl, lovely girl, um, at tech choices of 2 and 1. And so when you have these low ratios, you expect them to see them, the majority of them in the late game, maybe in the mid game in your stride. But honestly, your first stride, you won't have to worry about doing an Orphea turn. If you have it and it comes up, you can. But on your second stride, that might be the key to honestly break through people's hands at that point. Especially if you're generating enough Excel circles and kind of go from there. You can actually just stack triggers on Coral Soul and really go from there at that point. And so that's why I wanted to attack Orphea in. She has Generation Break Life. When she boosts, you Counterblast, Soul Blast 1 at the end of the battle that a unit boosted, pay the cost, and then restand that unit and gets it gets minus 5k. It makes anything an old Tidal Assault, which is very key for Coral Assault or any big regards like Narissa that can become really obnoxiously big. I've had Narissa where she's been basically a 38k booster or attacker, and you can just abuse with Orphea, or you can have as a booster that could be restored with the Lambros skill. So it's just keep that in mind. It helps with that pressure to further break hands, because in Premium, some decks are able to generate bigger hands than normally that Standard has to deal with. So it's very vital if we can get that extra attack to potentially rip that, that hand apart and actually break through. It makes a difference as well. And the Soul Blast is kind of negligible as long as you're managing your resources with Narissa, Corroso, and Nikki. So just keep that in mind. And then we have the Penguin Soldier, which honestly is just one of those units that we can just rest, give +5 to regard in front of it in the same column, and that beefs them up for that unit. But not only that, it's a rest condition that Thavas needs. So it kind of helps with that, and we see that in Standard as well. But the second skill is also the countercharge ability. So if it's the 4th battle, retire it and countercharge, which can come up. We have Lambros that counterblast, we have Genbold that counterblast, we have Orphea that counterblast, and we have Agias that counterblast. So those things are very key. And so if an opponent kind of damage denies us or keeps us with 1 open damage, Penguin can come up, especially when you're doing your number of attacks. That 4th battle, boom, countercharge. We're good to go at that point. On to the grade zeros. We're playing 17 grade zeros, 16 triggers, and the on-ride draw starter. Mitchell's, I like the art, so that's why I'm playing him. We are playing 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. You want to play the Premium Collection crits. The one that goes into Soul gives your Vanguard +5. Really cool interaction is that you can call him from the Genbold on-play skill. So even though if it's a unit that's called as rested, you can actually do Genbold skill first, and then once you retire, draw, and then restand, then you can actually proc Brave Shooter afterwards to go into Soul, give Genbold power, and draw a card. So you're able to take advantage of that, so that way you're generating more advantage, but still meet the requirements for Genbold as well. That's very key. We have Bumper Shooter over here, which helps the consistency of being able to stride. He counts as a grade 3, and honestly, because we are playing 4 Thavas and 3 Lambros, we appreciate Bumper Shooter as being those 4 extra cards to help to pay the cost of stride. One cool thing is that we can actually pitch Lambros to actually stride and then recycle it later with Nikki. So those are some key factors, and maybe you want to keep the Bumper Shooter as a 15k shield at that point. Pascal has the PG draw. We definitely appreciate the draw power. So we're still playing the PG draws, and not only that, it makes us have room in the grade 1 slots as well, so that's very vital. And then of course heal triggers because of heal triggers. Onto the G zone. We are playing 10 G units. We're playing 2 Genbold, 2 Valeos, 2 Alexandros, 2 Lambros, 1 Megiddo, and 1 Ballerina. If I said that correctly. Well, like I said, Genbold is very that key card. So when he's placed on Vanguard Circle, you can check the top 7 cards of your deck, call it to 2 units as rest, and then shuffle your deck. And then the second skill is an auto. When it attacks, you can counterblast 1, flip anything in the G zone, and then you can choose as many cards that you have prepared that are rested, retire and draw that many. And if you drew 3, then you can choose 2 units and actually restand them. It does not give power to those units like what a Lambros or an Alexandros would. So that's why you have to be key with restanding what. You can restand columns to make numbers. You can restand cards like Coral Assault to that honestly will hit on their own. So take advantage of that. But honestly, it helps that retire factor that helps you also keep in the game, and you're generating advantage both in hand and field. So Genbold is very key. Be very wary of using the second one, because I've done that multiple games and I've decked myself out. So again, just watch out for that. And then of course Valeos, Alexandros, and Lambros being there to be honestly those off-case scenarios where we need to restand with Alexandros with a counterblast, or we need to restand for free with Lambros, and we need to call a field and then 11k lock our opponent. And honestly, because of the Excel circles that we generate, Velios becomes a key factor too sometimes in those late game plays for real. And then we have the Megiddo and Ballerina package. So if you need to do the ultimate stride, if you were denied CB and you can't countercharge, that could be a play. Or you can go into Lambros. Really just depends on your preference. There are plays that I've seen before where people build a massive hand with Genbold, and because you have a massive hand, I typically have 12 to 15 cards in hand after my first stride. And if you have something absurd like to 18 cards, where I've seen people do that, you can actually stride Ballerina and then just kind of have it as a kill turn, because you'd be discarding to kill Guardians at that point, and you may have the actual grade 1s or less from hand to discard to actually pop Guardians, like your Dimension Police or something like that. So that's the thing. Does it come up often? For me, it hasn't. Megiddo is just Megiddo, and again, if you get Drachma and you're stuck at grade 2 or grade 1, you could always ultimate stride with a copy of the Vanguard and go into Megiddo at that point too. Onto the G-Guard. So I'm playing 2 Ionis, 2 Gaphelia, 1 Ice Barrier, and 1 Dismal. So a total of 6 G-Guards. I just wanted to have the flexibility of doing effective guarding. Aqua Force doesn't have the greatest G-Guards in the terms of like actual battle requirements. Like for Ice Barrier, for example, he has to be the first or the 4th battle or more range for a plus 10k, and that's only so much power. Gaphelia has to be the 2nd or 3rd wave that gets the plus 5, but honestly, Gaphelia is used for her skill where you can actually flip a face down for a Soul Blast, and then you can countercharge or basically unlock something. You turn something face up, typically for locking at that point. But honestly, Ionis is really your big shield where you can counterblast, and then for every regards that you have on your field, you get plus 5, and they get resist too. But the plus 5 is actually really beneficial because you're building Excel circles, and not only that, you're committing board, and so some of your regards are actually just gonna stay naturally. So you get that massive power up, and it takes advantage of that. That's all I'm saying. And so it may come up at that point. And then we have Dismal. This is something I'm trying to test out right now. If there was a scenario where you needed to save a rear guard in order to use it for next turn, Dismal's right there, so that way you can protect it and everything. And then you can just go for your next turn at that point. Now onto some of the key plays that we can do in this deck. This is going to demonstrate the first grade 3 right turn with Thavas going into Lambros. And then not only that, being able to finish off with actually rewriting back to grade 2 at that point too. So you want to have a field like this where you can use Agias to rest 2 regards. You can also abuse Narissa with Dennis, Agias, Thavas' rest skill. This will rest itself Nikki over here to count for that, basically that count at that one. So if you want to make sure you want to use Narissa twice, you Soul Blast these 2. And then of course kind of less for Agias. So you'll rest something like this. This called something. This gets rested, and eventually this is rested. So you can have something like this after you resolve all the skills. With this, then during your battle phase, you discard a card, ride Lambros from the main deck. Now Lambros will trigger and restand all your units. So I would just restand this, the whole field. And this doesn't have to be the exact pattern, but this is an example. So you can attack with the first battle with Dennis being an XL2 circle, for example, then it's a 14k attack. You can attack with Agias with the 8k boost. So this is actually a 27k column, which is a really good number if you think about it too. And then of course you can attack with Coral Soul and Narissa. And at this point, Coral Soul sees 4 or more rested units, so it gets the plus 15k. This is actually 9 plus 8, so 17, so 32. Yeah, 32 at that point, which makes a really good number as the 3rd attack. And then of course you have the Lambros on attack. This is where it actually is key. So not only that you're counter blasting, you're also going to Soul Blast Thavas. So your grade 3, that is the only thing in Soul, you want to Soul Blast the grade 3 Thavas. That's very key. With that, you restand the Coral Soul, Narissa. If they're at grade 2, then they're not going to get the plus 5, but it doesn't matter because these are already big numbers. With the prior number, Narissa got plus 20k, so it's actually 52 for the 3rd attack at that point. So your triple drive, your 25k. Baraggio sees 4 more rested units, so it gets the plus 5, so it's a 13k booster. You have a 38 Vanguard attack with triple drive. Stack anything on the Coral Soul, and then of course attack with that to make that big number again. Now, you're probably wondering, like, how does this work out? So what happens is that Lambros is retired from Vanguard Circle. And Thavas says, reride a grade 3 from Soul onto Vanguard. Guess what? This is the only thing left in Soul. So then it's kind of like the Drachma ruling where if you have no Vanguard, then you have to ride from Sol. So then the only thing left in Sol is actually Dennis. And so you'll rewrite Dennis, and boom, you're a grade 2. And then you resolve the other effects like Narissa and Coral Assault to draw you 2 more cards. And if you have the grade 3 already in hand, then you're pretty much good to go. You guard effectively on their grade 3 turn. It depends if they have a push grade 3 turn or not. And then at that point, you ride a grade 3, you get another Excel circle, and then you pay the cost for stride, and boom, you're in Genbold. And if your hand is kind of low, Genbold is going to call 2 more cards, and then you're able to generate a field back and then actually be effective as well. So it's a really good synergy that you're able to do this and rely back onto Genbold to get you back in that tempo that Aqua Force needs to maintain in order to keep pushing. And so that's very vital. And again, this is really cool. You only need 1 counterblast because of now Lambros, but this example used Ag as the second counterblast. So if you have the 1 counterblast, you always have access to this play. So yeah. For the next combo play, this is really showing off the after effect if you got rewrote into your grade 2 turn, or this is maybe your first stride turn, whatever it may be. So you're gonna stand, draw, and then you're gonna ride Thavas and then pay the cost of stride and go into Genbold. So you will have another Excel circle at this point for this example. Let's just say with Genbold skill, you actually call these cards, and we'll just put them right here for now. And then of course they come as rested. So that's very vital. Then if you use Dennis to, like, let's say rest something, you can actually rest maybe this guy, and then you could, let's say, top deck something. Let's say you top deck a Coral Assault. And so what's kind of cool is that you're able to build advantage with Dennis and Genbold at that point. And so with some of the key cards that you're able to select with Genbold, these 2 cards will go into Soul and draw your card somehow. And so with this example, this is not the best example, but this is an example on the fly. So the attack pattern can easily be a 14k attack. If you want to commit another rigor, because we do have a second Excel circle, you can do that. Or at this point, you attack with a 14k poke, and then again, Coral Assault actually sees 4 more rested units besides him, so he'll become a 24k beater at that point. And then you can attack, and this is key, you pay the counterblast, retire 3, draw 3, restand Coral Assault, and you can restand a Dennis just to have another attacker if you want. If you want a booster, that works too. Then you can resolve this guy to draw you a card, gets you a card back. Any drive checks go into Coral or Dennis, however you want to pan that out. And then this is 37 plus a 13k booster. Well, not anymore because there's no 4 more rested. So this becomes 8k again. So this is 37 plus 8, so 45, which is a big number. They have to guard it or take it. Any drive checks, put it in the regards, and then you can poke again for 14 and then 24. And then at the end of the turn, on stride, if you want Narissa into, actually that works. So you're going to actually put them in the soul, draw 2 cards. So you have enough regards for Narissa to see it, so that works out. And you draw 2 more cards. So you draw 2 from that, you draw 1 from the crit, then Genbold another 3, and then you have your drive check, which is 9. So you're seeing 9 new cards at that point with just those effects. That doesn't include anything else that you might have additionally drawn, or a bubble edge, or anything that you want to add to the deck. But I just wanted to show off because at the same time, you're retiring 3 units on the board, so it gives you that control aspect, and honestly, it gives you that tempo back that you needed because you rewrite it back to grade 2, and it just kind of gets you in the game. And then from there, you can go into Ultimate Stride, you can go to another Genbold turn, you can go into Lambros, Alexandro Stride turns, or Valeos, and so on. And that's the deck profile, amigos. Hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun just discovering some of these new key plays that Aqua Force can do in Premium. I feel like Thavas Lambros is an interaction to be able to do a grade 3 turn and go back to grade 2 is something that's going to be very important for Aqua Force moving forward. Not only that, but Genbold being a stride to just be able to recover advantage from anything. So those key cards honestly are putting Aqua Force in the right direction, and it's only going to get better from here on out. So I definitely recommend playtesting more. Try some different cards. Honestly, I'll let you guys just feedback. I just threw in Orphea just to get some more pressure, but obviously there are so many grade 2s, so many grade 1s, so many grade 3s that Aqua Force has access to that can introduce some really power plays that the deck might actually need to actually compete in the metagame. So, till next time, like the video, comment down below, share, and subscribe. See you, amigos. Bye.